like that intro music, huh? Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network, and boy, are we glad to see you here. Yeah. I always wonder, am I forgetting something? Oh, gosh. I am forgetting something. Thank God I got the sad trombone. Oh, my phone. It's over there. Hold on one second. Don't go away. Hold on. All right, give it up, give it up. AP in the house. In our house, we say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays because the wife's Jewish. Don't want to offend the mother-in-law. Everything's fine over at the Petersen house where a beautiful little red-haired baby girl, Hazel, is making my day so much better. Why am I in such a good mood in the mornings? Because I wake up and I see my little baby girl. She woke up today instead of an hour before my alarm. Thank God. She woke up on time with mom and dad today. Oh my God, it felt so good. Oh my God, she was laughing and smiling too. So happy. How could I be sad? There's so much evil in the world that it makes me sad. Luigi Mangione. Mangione. You got to put a little stank on it. Right, a little spaghetti sauce on that kind of a name. Luigi Mangione, right? Right? Gorlami. Now, what was I'm starting to quote Inglourious Bastards. What was the Italian guy and stuff like that? Margarete, right? If you haven't seen Inglourious Bastards, then you'll have no idea what I'm doing right now. Margarete. Let me hear the music in it. Margarete, right? This is a Luigi Mangione. You gotta have a little garlic bread to sop up the sauce. I guarantee you that at this elite anti-capitalist killer's home that they don't do the frozen Texas toast from Sam's Club. You know what I'm saying, right? Oh no. Luigi Mangione, the alleged killer of the United Healthcare CEO in New York City last week, is not one of us. He does not go to the big box stores. If somebody did, then if somebody went to the big box stores and the Mangiones were eating anything that came out of that, somebody went to the store for the Mangiones, because the profile on the alleged killer in this case is starting to build. And I'm reading the Wall Street Journal this morning. The fall from grace from Luigi Mangione places him at some of the highest levels of elite society in the United States. And if anything, it's something of an inside job, an elite Ivy League privileged child, the heir-to-be to a vast fortune of his own, and an accomplished 26-year-old coded his own app and game valedictorian, but possibly even a victim of the insane policies that were enacted during the COVID-19 pandemic. We're going to talk about that this morning at the top of the show. I've also got a million billion clips. We'll check in on our commander-in-chief. Did you know we have a president of the United States? Did you know that? Do you know who it is? Well, it's not Donald Trump. You would think it was Donald Trump with all the meetings that have been going on with world leaders now approaching Donald Trump and sort of wrangling and doing business with him. But no, actually, Joe Biden is president of the United States. Where has he been? Oh, well, we've got a clip. We'll take a look at it. And of course, the media is melting down. Brad Beckman, my assistant this morning, is sending me stories that are so good. There's so much news, I can't even cover it. He said like Rachel Maddow lost something like 43% of her audience since the election. Oh, sad. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. You're going to hell, Austin. You're going to hell with Luigi Mangione. Margarete. Anyways, I'm Austin Petersen. This is the Wake Up America show. And today I read to you from my Libertarian Nationalism manifesto. Yes, I wrote a manifesto too, and I didn't even have to murder anybody. Isn't that funny how that works? You can write words down on paper, and get people's attention with them and market them through social media and use word of mouth and build a network of people over your life. And instead of being a 26-year-old murderer, you could be a 43-year-old happy father with a wonderful life, your own show, write manifestos, influence public opinion, and you don't have to murder anybody. Isn't that funny how that works?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Right. Thank you, Norm Macdonald. We miss you very much, don't we? Norm, R.I.P. Some bad news is that, unfortunately, Judge Andrew Napolitano will not be on the show today. Don't be too sad, guys. But we tried to get him back on tomorrow. He's got this new schedule that he's rocking with Newsmax, and they're forcing him to drive from his beautiful mansion out in New Jersey to New York City to be in studio, which he hates. He likes to do all of his stuff remotely from home if he could. He'd love to have like his own like studio like I have. He's kind of jealous of my studio. Don't tell anybody, guys. In his own house, but some limitations. It's a lot harder to get space to do this than you might think, right? So anyways, but we're hopefully going to get him on next week because he's just booked solid with Newsmax, and he has a contract with them, so he's got to like do all their stuff at their schedule. And this is prime time, baby. But you know what? On prime time, what do we watch? We're not watching Newsmax, no offense. We're watching the Wake Up America show, baby, with Austin Petersen. That's me at AP for Liberty. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. That phone number, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Anytime, night or day. Only Peculiar, Missouri and Raymore, Missouri kids will get that, right? Anybody here from Raymore, from Peculiar, Missouri? No? That's where I grew up. I was born in Independence, born in Independence. Austin, are you okay? Are you drunk? Born in Independence, raised in Peculiar near a town called Liberty. There we go, Austin. Got it out. I said that a million times during my campaigns. Click the like button. Click the like button. And of course, if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show, then do me a flavor. Then make sure you click that follow button. Come back and join us. It's every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Hey, Steffi, I see my beautiful, smoking, sexy, redheaded libertarian wife is in the chat. What's up, Steffi? Can you hear me? Steffi, can you hear me? Can you hear me near you? There was something that I was supposed to give to our friend Nelson, who we need to say thank you for and give him his own round of applause because he helped me set up this studio today. But we do have like the cart now. Things are getting better here. Steffi, there was something I was supposed to give him today, a nice little thing. Was it included in all that little stack that you gave me this morning? If so, I put them all in the mass delivery box at the end of the driveway. So please don't let the mass delivery man take it if on accident, because it was like pushed in with there, and I think I should have separated it and brought it to Nelson, but please let me know, Miss Steffi. Tommy, can you hear me? Can you feel me near you? I think only Joni Rankin would get that. This is the most esoteric show of shows. We'll speak to Colonel Rob Manus this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. I'm excited for that. He read my Libertarian Manifesto, but I didn't have to kill anyone for. And I think he's a fan. He may have his own critiques for it. If you didn't get a chance to read that manifesto, then I will read some parts from it today. And it is 14 pages long. I get it, right? It's like it's asking a lot of people to read that much. But frankly, I'm starting to think that I need to spend a little bit more time doing more writing. So if that's something you're keen to see or hear and you would like to see some more full-length writings from me, remember, just call me. Call this number now. You got to have some 1980s music in there in this show, or it just wouldn't feel legit. You know what I'm saying? It's a synthwave vibe, 1980s. I'm an 80s baby, right? So we do a little bit of the throwback themes and styles, but we don't really play a lot of 80s music, right? I play some synthwave stuff in it. But we just need to like write some of the AI, just get some AI 1980s music. Brad, get on it. Brad Beckman. Calls me boss now. We're going to talk to Colonel Rob Manus at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. We got a lot to get through, a lot of clips, and you have got to what? What have you got to do?
Can you bless me with something?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
Casey Holland, if you're out there, if you're listening to me all the way up there in Wyoming, which I know you love to do. Is it Wyoming or is it Montana? I get them confused. It's Montana, Stephanie would tell me. He's out in the woods or the plains, the high hills. That little one was just for you, buddy. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Click that like button, strap in. It's time to rock the Wake Up America show. Let's go. The notorious criminal suspect in an orange jumpsuit who shouted wildly about injustice outside a central Pennsylvania jail on Tuesday appeared to be light years removed from the smiling University of Pennsylvania graduate he was a few short years ago. But Luigi Mangione's transformation from promising student to accused murderer didn't happen overnight. A look at his activities over the past few years shows threads of a life, his work, his health, his ties to his family, and his trust in the world at large had been fraying in parallel. Mangione's life started to fracture about a year ago, but shortly after his 26th birthday last June, on the heels of a debilitating back injury and subsequent surgery, he had fallen off the grid altogether. A close friend from Hawaii texted him with no response. A few months later, he was charged with murder in the pre-dawn shooting of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel. Interviews with associates in Mangione's own writings suggest that the curious soul who had long been driven to explore the world around him began to instead direct his intellect inward in an almost torturous way. A searching, insistent mind that had fueled his academic success. He was his elite high school's class valedictorian and earned honors at Penn. His mind had turned against him. Mangione's embarked on an obsessive quest to defeat back pain. Boy, if I know what that's like. That he claimed was robbing him of a satisfying life. Been there, done that, Luigi. As he did so, he mused about loneliness while gravitating towards manosphere intellectual figures such as Jordan Petersen, that's the Canadian academic who blames modern society for disempowering young men. By the time of his arrest at a McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, Pennsylvania on Monday, Mangione's journey appeared to have him cut off from his family, a wealthy and prominent Baltimore clan whose members were both high achievers and tightly knit. In the ornate, high-ceilinged courtroom where he was arraigned Monday evening, Mangione glanced back to the gallery several times, as if searching who might be there in his support. It appeared no one was. While Mangione had been out of contact with his family for months, he wasn't entirely bereft. He was carrying $8,000 cash when he was arrested and appeared to have the resources to travel up and down the East Coast, albeit by bus. He was on his own. One of his last posts on X last summer was a link to an AI-supported dating app. The slip-up that led to his face appearing in pictures released by the New York City Police Department was related to an encounter with a friendly clerk at the hostel. Oops, peanut's going to get you in trouble every time. As a teenager, Mangione had appeared to be a prodigious talent from an established Baltimore family. His grandfather, Nicholas, a child of immigrants, grew up in the city's Little Italy neighborhood, been there many times. His father died when he was 11. Nicholas went to work as a mason and eventually built a local real estate empire that includes golf clubs and assisted living facilities. The family's philanthropy wove through the city from the Walters Art Museum, where relatives had the run of the place on Mangione night, to the Mangione Aquatic Center at Loyola University, Maryland. So these are big time. The big time people, big family, where a roster of Mangiones starred on the soccer team and some later went pro. Luigi, the scion, appeared poised to carry on the family tradition. He designed a mobile game app in high school, founded a video game programming club at Penn, and completed his bachelor's and master's degree in computer science in 4 years with honors. He was one of the thousands of college students whose senior years were truncated by the COVID-19 pandemic. When the University of Pennsylvania shut down its campus in mid-March 2020 and sent students home indefinitely, Mangione's life changed as well. At Penn, he led a busy life, hanging out with Phi Kappa Psi fraternity brothers during the year and taking trips to hotspots such as Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. Like everyone else, he suddenly went to virtual learning via laptop screen. Because of the pandemic, the University School of Engineering and Applied Science, known as Penn Engineering, held an online ceremony. When Mangione's name was called, a smiling picture flashed up on a screen accompanied by a gracious message to his parents. I don't tell you nearly enough how grateful I am for all you do for me. Thank you for your sacrifices and the lessons you've taught me. And he entered the work world remotely too, starting that November as a data engineer with TrueCar, an automotive digital marketplace in California. Mangione was a young man in a hurry, but his LinkedIn profile shows he moved up the ranks methodically over the course of a year from data engineer 1 to 2 on the strength of rebuilding a data pipeline to populate used vehicle loans. In 2022, Mangione was casting about for a new start. He appeared to find it in Hawaii, some 5,000 miles away from the family home in Maryland. He washed up at Surf Break, a kind of upscale surfers collective in Honolulu, where mostly young members working remotely at jobs elsewhere paid about $2,000 a month in rent. During an entry interview, he portrayed Hawaii as a last-ditch attempt to repair his health. Mangione had written notes on Goodreads, an online book review community, that he suffered from a condition known as spondylolisthesis. That is the only time I will say this on this show, in which a vertebra splits out of place, either because of an injury or as a condition from birth. Boy, I feel your pain on that, Luigi, but everything else is quite dark and quite evil. In Hawaii, he was hoping that with a change in nutrition and lifestyle, he might avoid a potentially debilitating surgery. Mangione could also be obsessive. According to the materials, among the materials on his account were copies of a dozen-line notebook pages in which he detailed his fitness plans. Develop a gym plan that he could start. Over the ensuing pages, he recorded a summary of his fitness book. In pictures, he doesn't appear to be sickly patient, but he is sometimes seen shirtless with his grin flaunting his abs and his chiseled biceps. He employed a similarly driven and hyper-analytical approach to digesting the lessons of Angela Duckworth's self-help book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. That's one I've been working on this year. That year, Mangione documented in his notebook the teachings from each of the book's 13 chapters and even reproduced some of its graphs and charts. While in Hawaii, he co-founded a book club. In an eerie coincidence, the club also read the statement of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, which Mangione later praised on Goodreads. But the Hawaii experiment for health did not last. According to a Reddit post believed to be written by him, he suffered a surfing accident the next year that had devastating consequences. My back and hips locked up after the accident, the user wrote, adding that intermittent numbness has become constant and I'm terrified of the implications. The founder of that surfer collective recalled that after a surfing outing, Mangione ended up incapacitated for days. In summer 2023, he returned to the mainland. He had had surgery. It wasn't clear what dealings he had with health insurance companies. By early this year, his social media posts reflected a shift from optimism about the promise of technology to increasingly dark viewpoints. He left his job and his roommates, and he started to have meaningful interactions on X, where he amplified the heavyweights of the manosphere like Jordan Petersen, podcaster and neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, and Tucker Carlson. His posts and reposts show a young man considering topics such as psychedelic drugs, the potential downside of AI, the impact of smartphone ubiquity on isolation, and even population declines. It was a vastly different worldview than the one he'd expressed 8 years before as a high school valedictorian who praised interconnectedness and common purpose. Even as his life appeared to be going down off course, he displayed stunning confidence in his own intellect. On January 24th, he posted a thread saying he used to get bummed in math class when learning theorems. He said, all the low-hanging fruit had been solved before I was born. If I was alive at the time of Pythagoras, I could have easily derived the Pythagorean theorem and etched my place in history. Yeah, well, Luigi, if I was born in the time of cavemen, then I would invent steam power. What the hell's wrong with you, kid? Yeah. If I was born in 1860s, I would give Robert E. Lee AK-47s. Just kidding. What am I doing? Just whistling Dixie? There's 160 people over there on Rumble. Not bad. Good morning. Hi, guys. Interesting story. Have you clicked the like button yet? We'd love to have you be a regular guest. Join us on this show Mondays through Fridays if you've never watched us before, from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Somewhere out on an island somewhere is Paul Southcott this morning. We sent out your card. Thanks for all your support, Paul. I wish I could read everybody's name. You just came to mind because Steph and I were talking about you the other day, and apparently you guys text each other. And boy, but if you flirt with my girl, it's going to be a problem. Just kidding. Hope you're doing well, Paul, and Merry Christmas to you and to all of your family. We're talking about Luigi Mangione. I think we're getting a better idea of who this guy is. Elite. Had everything handed to him. He released a manifesto. It's not like my manifesto, which I will be reading soon. Cecilia's saying, man, AP should read spicy books the way he's reading Mangione's appearance. Cecilia.
Wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
Wake up, you sexy bitches. It's time to sin. It's the Wake Up America show. It's sinful. It's downright. You're going to have to get a little holy water sprayed on you, especially Nelson65. Nelson, we owe you such a big debt of gratitude. Good morning, sir. Thank you for all you did for us to help us set up. Southcott's in the chat. I'm glad he's here. Barney Styles, Joni Rankin, Grizz, we saw you, Mr. Grizzard. Eat the grizzard, fry up them grizzards. What's up, Grizz? I think I ate a Grizz cheese myself the other day because I was like, Grizz cheese. Whitey White 14, nice to see you. His eyebrows look like devil horns in many pics. Yes, the face of evil. Let's just read the manifesto. Luigi's manifesto, and you will know from the first 3 words of the manifesto that this dude is pure evil, if not the first sentence. To the feds. I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
I'm gonna give you some brain bleach after I read you the alleged killers manifesto. I'm gonna give you a little brain bleach after I'll read my own manifesto. I'm very excited about it. We got plenty of time to get into it. And then Rob Maness is gonna join us at 8:30 this morning to talk about the potential de-wokifying of the military with Pete Hegseth. You do not want to miss that interview. But we're manifesting our manifesto today. It was published yesterday. Are you excited? Be excited. Be excited. Be excited. Be Trump dance. Be excited. If you haven't read it yet, then make sure you do so. Bookmark it. It was published in Human Events yesterday, and I am going to read snippets of it today, excerpts, and I might expand it if it's popular enough. But we'll see. I don't know if people are really interested in reading ideas anymore. Are you guys interested in reading ideas, books, and things? No? Okay, I'll just make a video. Let's see. 8:30. So Colonel Rob Maness at 8:30. Make sure you stick around and talk. Let's check the text real quick before I read the manifesto. One listener texted and says, Austin, I want to wish you and Steffi and Hazel, that's my sweet baby girl, a very Merry Christmas and all God's blessings for 2025. Well, thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited. What's up, Decision Points? Hi, InJam. Good morning. Nice to have you here. We're reading Luigi Mangione's manifesto, and then we're going to read mine. And then before I read mine, I might take a break. I'm going to read his. I'm going to take a quick little break, get some water. And then after that, I will read my manifesto and then Colonel Rob Maness. This is going to be a great show. You're going to want to hear as much of it as you can today. But let's get to Mangione's manifesto and we'll dissect it. He writes, to the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. I almost vomited in my mouth a little bit. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was a fairly trivial, some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it has to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. Keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to get to that point in a minute. United Healthcare is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No. The reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public have allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. Really, then why, if you weren't so convinced of your superiority here, why would you go out and murder someone for it? But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, he writes, Rosenthal and more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of, how would you know? You weren't there. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Well, that's true. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. You aren't the first, and you certainly won't be the last. Good morning. I'm Austin Petersen here. We're speaking about Luigi Mangione. We're reading his manifesto that he published to discuss, to start a discussion about healthcare in this country. And that is certainly what it has done. And while I sympathize with those who suffer from pain, specifically back pain, and myself as well, this goes too far. Luigi Mangione, if he did it, is a cold-blooded killer and a heartless narcissist who is ignorant of the real problems that society faces from healthcare. Here is a man who had $8,000 in his pocket, more than enough to walk into any clinic. He could live in Hawaii and live with a surfers collective where he could pay $2,000 a month rent with, being, 24, 25 years old, had enough time to sculpt and chisel his abs, which does take hours and hours and hours of time, had everything in the world, a powerful family, with the ability to do philanthropic things, decides to become a killer, a pure narcissist. Good morning, Amy. Nice to see you on the show this morning. Merry Christmas to you. I really like this, and I think I'll be able to pull it up here. I should have pulled it up before the show, but Jeremy Kaufman responded to the manifesto. Let's see if I can pull up the picture here for you so you can guys give Jeremy Kaufman some credit here. He's a good follow over on X. He writes, Luigi Mangione's manifesto includes a superficially damning claim. However, it's wrong. Do you want to understand why the U.S. spends so much on healthcare to get such poor results? Read this thread Jeremy Kaufman wrote on this analysis of the U.S. healthcare, the greatest and most unknown analysis of U.S. healthcare ever done. Jeremy is responding to the section of the manifesto where the killer writes that the United States has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. Healthcare spending in all countries tracks income. The richer a country is, the more they spend on healthcare. The U.S. is the richest country in the world, and it spends the most on healthcare. It's important to use real income for this analysis, not GDP. Very important, yes, I'll add to this, that the GDP is a terrible measure because it's a socialist measure because GDP includes government spending as an overall percentage of our gross domestic product. Government spending, of course, is not productive spending, it's destructive spending. There is the productive sector of the economy, and there is the unproductive sector of the economy. The productive sector of the economy is business. These are jobs that come from business. The other sector of the economy is parasitic on the productive sector of the economy. So when you think about when someone says GDP or a percentage of GDP, you have to look at this in terms of the bigger picture here, because GDP and government spending has exploded, right? But it's the parasite, the tick full of blood has bloated larger than the host. that it feeds off of, the government. They are the parasites. And Luigi Mangione is very much a member of the parasite class. Jeremy Kaufman continues to write, the U.S. spends more on healthcare because it consumes more. The richer a country is, the more healthcare it consumes. Given more money, people simply consume more healthcare. The evidence that U.S. healthcare is uniquely expensive is weak. All goods cost more in richer countries. In richer countries, human time, which is what we're trading, is more valuable. Does healthcare in the U.S. cost more? Yes, but not in any way that wouldn't be predicted by its wealth. All wealthy countries have more of their economy consumed by healthcare. The richer a country is, the higher a percentage of the country is employed in healthcare and the more they are paid. Nothing unique about the U.S. The U.S. is just rich. Number 5, profit margins and compensation in healthcare aren't high. Healthcare in the U.S. is not especially profitable compared to other sectors, nor is there anything out of line with how U.S. providers are compensated, again, relative to U.S. wealth. Number 6, money has diminishing returns on its ability to extend life. Norway and Luxembourg spend twice as much in Spain and Italy to no result. In other words, there is a certain point where you can spend all the money that you want, but it's not going to result in better health outcomes, especially if you aren't willing to eat healthy and get your ass off of the couch. There's just not enough money to stop bad habits or to stop genetics. The U.S. is a uniquely drug-addicted, violent, and fat nation. The U.S. has shorter life expectancy due to the behavioral choices of its residents. Money alone can't solve obesity or a gunshot. Very well written there. All of the above graphs and data are sourced in Jeremy's posts. His blog is somewhat dead for those who are going to read that the data that's underlying all of these claims. That's Jeremy Kaufman, who I think did a really great analysis there. Amy says we could talk about this stuff all day. I wish we could, but instead we got things hail to the chief because he's the chief and he needs hailing.
I can't name a single country in the world that doesn't think. Put it this way. If we're not leading the world, who does? Not a joke. I'm not being wise guy. If we do not lead the world, what nation leads the world? Who pulls Europe together? Who tries to pull the Middle East together? How do we do the Indian Ocean? What do we do in Africa? We, the United States.
Jesus Christ, Joey, please calm down. No offense, but it sounds like some commie gobbledygook. You're seeing all my clips here. In related news,
the United States and G7 are now making good on that commitment. Together, we will leverage income earned from frozen Russian sovereign assets to provide a total of $50 billion of extraordinary revenue acceleration ERA loans to Ukraine. This will lend vital support to the people of Ukraine as they defend their country, and it also makes clear aggressors and tyrants will be responsible for the damage they cause.
U.S. contributes $20 billion, part of a new loan to Ukraine. I'm sick of it. It's time. I got to go to break. I'm going to get a bottle of water. Here's water. You got to hydrate, right? Because I'm about to do my manifesto. It's time for a call, a return to first principles. It's time for a new vision on a new day. It's time for Libertarian Nationalism. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama!
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian, and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins. Good morning. Rise in freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. What's For Liberty Network, Austin? Well, it's a network that I built consisting of 3 podcasts and a mega superstore of patriotic merch goodness. It's amazing. It's forlibertyshop.com, and the network is forlibertynetwork.com. We're the For Liberty Network, and that's why you go to forlibertynetwork.com to find more of our other shows. Culturama, which we saw last night. Daniela, she's really getting in the Christmas spirit, I noted, with all of her fun little antler headsets and things. So she's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree. That's how we call her. Rumble.com/Culturama. She had a great show last night, talked about the topics we've been talking about this morning and more. She does great interviews. 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time, Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's Daniela Pensack. On Thursdays, directly after Culturama, you can see the Liberty Tonight Boys immediately after from 9 to 11 p.m. The night shift, a fun, funny show full of gags and comedy and news and opinions. Brian Pensack and the king of all libertarians, the benevolent dictator who I am told, is something of a libertarian nationalist. The king of all libertarians only on Liberty Tonight, Thursday nights, 9 to 11 p.m. Central Time. It's the For Liberty Network. God, we are so badass. I'm coming into 2020-25 like, raw! Try and stop me. Don't forget to visit forlibertyshop.com where you can get your delicious coffee. You see James Madison and how sour he is? This is how James Madison feels when you don't follow the Constitution. He's like, no! But do you know how he feels whenever somebody offers him a cup of tea? Tea, ma'am? No tea. James Madison drinks a delicious light roast in the morning so much, he loved it so much that he called it Madisonian Mornings. You can get them at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4, libertyshop.com. It's a lively symphony of flavors, bursting with the boldness of dried fruit, citrus notes at a zesty twist. It's not flavored coffee, mind you. People get confused when they talk about like fruit notes and things or hazelnut tinges to my coffees. It's not flavored coffee except for the coffees that are specifically flavored. Those are the holiday blends. Roasted chestnut, Martha's Mint, which are going away very soon. But Madisonian Morning, the straight up line of founding flavors, George Washington's Revolutionary Roast, Jeffersonian Java. It's called a flavor profile, meaning that it's evocative of dried fruit or citrus, right? So when you taste a cup of coffee in the bean, there's all of these flavors. Most people, especially if you're buying that frozen store-bought stuff and you just throw it in, you don't even grind your beans maybe. I mean, if you're a coffee lover, then Founding Flavors is for you because it's going to give you a symphony of flavors. You take a sip, straight black, nice dark black coffee and get that flavor just to understand the complexity in the flavors. And then add your milk or your sugar afterwards and drink it however you like it, of course. But of course, I like to taste it black just to see if the coffee is good. And Founding Flavors is good coffee. And for those of you who are in the chat who have tried it, please testify to one another, your mother, your brother, that the best coffee is at forlibertyshop.com. Get it delivered once a month. Some people got to get it like injected in their veins. We have like that. Remember that commercial that bit from The Simpsons when Barney goes to the Duff factory and he's like, just inject it into my veins. And then they bring the keg and the tap and they put the beer directly in his veins. You know that episode? I'm like, does anybody else remember that? Amy, you're not allowed to leave. You come back here. Come on now.
Wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
Joni Rankin says that she says Jeffersonian Java has a wonderful hint of pecans. Well, thank you, Joni. It's nice to see you. Good morning. Rise and freedom, baby. It's the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Petersen. I want to hear from you. You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Got me a bottle of water. I got to stay hydrated. It's the most driest time of the year. So dry. You put on your little chapsticks, put on a little lotion, especially on the little ones. Anybody out there has kids, if you see some dryness, then moisten some dryness on the babies. Over the past decade, the libertarian movement in the United States has been in slow collapse. Once a vibrant force for individual liberty and limited government, it has devolved into infighting and irrelevance, unable to make meaningful political inroads. Instead of rallying against state overreach, libertarians have splintered, many like myself finding refuge in the populist currents of Donald Trump's MAGA movement. But this failure presents an opportunity to rebuild. MAGA, for all of its flaws, has shown that the spirit of liberty, skepticism of centralized authority, disdain for bloated bureaucracy, and a belief in economic dynamism still resonate deeply with millions of Americans. Libertarian ideas do fairly well as long as they're not advanced by libertarians themselves. I was able to win my county election for a GOP Trump delegate seat simply by running as a concerned local citizen and landowner. Libertarian principles, though, thankfully have gained new momentum in efforts like DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, spearheaded by figures like Vivek and Elon Musk. Their work aims to reshape the government by recommending structural reforms. The involvement of Ron Paul as an advisor to this initiative has inspired confidence that the MAGA movement is fertile ground for those dedicated to shrinking the administrative state. Paul may finally get comeuppance on his old enemy, the state. Yes. Guapo Loco, appreciate seeing you in the chat there. Technical difficulties, yes. Is it just me, or does it seem like everyone has been like, there's been like mass cyber attacks? I've been reading news reports too, and hearing it from through the grapevine of friends of mine who have been experiencing hacks. It's been going on quite a bit. I'm sharing with you my manifesto on libertarian nationalism. And this conversation, I think, needed to be spurred because not only are we in the United States falling behind the rest of the world in many ways, yes, it is true, but we're falling behind in our liberty movements. Compared to Argentina, the United States liberty movement is fractured, broken up amongst splinter groups, and incapable of developing coherent messaging that is effective to the American people on any large enough scale as to be registered in electoral politics. For example, there was not one single recognizable libertarian who was nominated to Donald Trump's cabinet, right? Not one single name. And I understand what Angela McArdle is doing in her argument that it's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he joined the Libertarian Party, but I think we all know the man who was for universal health care, who wanted to imprison all of us, just a short decade ago, and who has some very authoritarian beliefs when it comes to certain things that the FDA should or shouldn't be doing. I think it's safely, 1990s style Democrats, people like Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I think people safely can say, or Tulsi Gabbard, right? What we're really seeing here is the takeover of the Republican Party by 1990s style Democrats who are not woke, right? They haven't bought into the progressive ideology. And because they're still living in the 1990s, the people feeling nostalgic for the 1990s are hiring 1990s style Democrats for Republican Party, to lead the Republican Party. I appreciate that people are sending in text messages over at 573-319-1586. I saw that you all were celebrating some good news of they tried to stop InfoWars and failed. Elon Musk did his part on behalf of X to keep it fair, and Liberty won last night in their fight against the Onion. It's Cody Hoffman Hunt. Cody, why am I not following you over there on X? Boom, bud, I'm following you now. There you are. And thank you for texting. Thank you for texting. We'll be very excited to hear from anyone who wants to be in contact with the show. I can't always see the chat, but I try my best to include you all in the show. We're talking about my manifesto, and I'm reading to you sections or passages from it and what I think is important for us to restore the liberty movement in the near future. To understand libertarian nationalism, it is first necessary to clarify what it is not. We must, quote, declare war on our enemies, not because we desire war, but because to define what we are not and what we are against is to better understand what we are and what we stand for. Now, where did I get this? Excuse me, I might be coming down with a cold. I was reading Robert Greene's Strategies of War, and the very first chapter talks about this concept of declaring war on your enemies. And the purpose of doing this is not because you're a warmonger necessarily, although it can be interpreted in such a way, but this idea of defining your enemies, defining who your enemies are or what your enemies are. It doesn't have to be a person, it can also be a concept, right? What do you stand against? Because quite frequently people have a difficult time defining who they are. Who am I? What do I believe? Now, there are many people who are always certain about who they are and what they stand for. And you could also say a counterfactual on this one is that a fool who is always certain and a wise man full of doubt. But if you declare war on your enemies, first you must find out what you are against. I don't know what I am, but I know what I'm not. I know what I stand opposed to. And then once you know what you stand opposed to, then you can better see what you are, because you can stand, in contrast will be left the remaining options of what there is to stand up for. This is a psychological concept, right? This is about your own individual self-determination. This is my manifesto. I know what I stand against. I stand against socialism. I stand against totalitarianism. I stand against every form of tyranny over the mind of man, as Thomas Jefferson himself said. The libertarian tradition is as fragmented as it is storied, and while it has produced many bold ideas, it is also splintered into schools of thought that are impractical, inconsistent, or outright self-destructive in the modern world. Libertarian nationalism seeks to build on the core principles of liberty while addressing the shortcomings of other libertarian philosophies and their failure to grapple with the realities of governance, geopolitics, and national identity. Up to this point, there have been widely accepted to be approximately 10 different schools of thought within libertarianism, all claiming to be the one true faith and deriding the other schools as heretics and non-believers. It is time for a new idea: libertarian nationalism. Libertarian nationalism rejects anarcho-capitalism outright. The idea of a stateless society may appeal to theorists, but it's a fantasy that ignores basic human nature. A nature without a government capable of defending liberty and enforcing laws is not free. Are we to have no prisons, no laws to protect children from exploitation, no standing national army to repel invasions? This is anarchy, not liberty, and libertarian nationalism will have none of it. But there is room for those who want to live apart, and this is important. Anarcho-capitalists should have the freedom to create off-grid enclaves, much like the Amish, so long as these communities sustain themselves without exploiting national infrastructure. They should remain free from taxation and from interference. The mountains and wilderness in the United States' holdings are vast, and many of them are unconquered. Let the anarchists, religious separatists, and communes have their place, but ensure to the greatest extent that is possible, and it won't be totally, completely, 100% possible, that they will not be free riders. True liberty allows space for such experiments, but freedom without responsibility has no place here. Can we get an amen? Liberty requires responsibility. Libertarian nationalism also discards the pacifist streak of traditional libertarianism, that's particularly the rigid attachment to the non-aggression principle. While the NAP has noble intentions, it collapses in practice. Its absolutism paralyzes decision-making and leaves individuals and nations defenseless in the face of real-world threats. The NAP insists on moral purity even as events demand action. Kim McCurry asks a question in the chat, a great question, and I will be answering your questions related to this. So libertarian nationalism is a version of minarchism, but in a more recognizable term. Yes, that is correct, Kim McCurry. Minarchism is a term that I've worked very hard over the years to popularize because I find that it is an apt description for what I believe. This libertarian nationalism, specifically though, however, is tied to the American nation state, the United States. And we'll get to that as we work our way through this. Libertarians who cling to the NAP often oppose American interventionism on principle, equating all uses of force with aggression. This philosophy leads to absurd conclusions, such as sympathizing with Osama bin Laden or Hamas, or condemning all defensive wars as immoral. Ask an anarcho-capitalist, what was the last war that was remotely justified? If they say none, at least they're consistent. If they say none. But if they say the American Revolution, then they're probably a libertarian nationalist who just may be too afraid to admit that the United States is a prized jewel of liberty, thanks to our Declaration of Independence and our national Constitution. These are the cowards whose virtue signaling on war and defense led them to the conclusion that they would purge anarcho-capitalists like Walter Block for his defense of Israel. And this was all before they themselves supported Donald Trump, who is a gigantic supporter of Israel, a week before the election. Libertarian nationalists reject this moral cowardice. We proudly, morally support civilized nations defending themselves against barbarism. And we, just as we defend American pioneers who braved the wilderness during Manifest Destiny. Libertarian nationalism grounds its foreign policy in realism, strength, and moral clarity, as exemplified by the staunch realist stances of figures like Javier Milei. We're going to talk about that in a minute. CEO Day asks a great question, was the Civil War not necessary? Well, if you read the Anti-Federalist papers, the Anti-Federalists believed that not that a civil war was necessary, but that it was inevitable. And I think that one of the problems of revisionist historians of right-wing libertarianism is when they write the concept of Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War, and this is a position the judge holds. Right? One, they reject the premise of the concept of slavery being a primary driver or the primary driver of the Civil War. The really honest one, like the most honest ones, will say it was a key factor, but no, the Southern boys threw their bodies and blood on to stop not be taxed on a tariff, which is ironic because many of these right-wing types, nationalist populists these days, are all over them some tariffs. And nobody's wanting to declare a civil war over tariffs today, which is a pretty interesting realization. I should probably post that on X. Brad, cut this, 8:01 a.m. Central Time. That's marker, as they say. But a civil war was the reason why the United States was in a civil war was inevitable was in large part due to the fact that Americans aren't like Europeans. They say, oh, well, Britain got the United Kingdom got rid of slavery without firing a shot. Yes, well, this is the United States. If you couldn't tell by the cover photo on the profile, we are a very violent people. Benjamin Franklin noted this himself directly. We're the type of people who fight for things. We don't just give up our guns without a fight, as the shot heard around the world can attest. The Americans are willing to fight for their liberty, and you should be prepared to fight to stand for liberty. There's no pacifist way out to freedom. Even Gandhi had his problems and his mistakes, and India clearly got worse under Gandhi and under socialism and communism than it was under British imperialism. These are facts. These are facts. I don't care if you don't like them. Libertarian nationalism grounds its foreign policy in realism, strength, and moral clarity, as exemplified by people like Javier Milei. Milei's libertarian nationalism made him the president of Argentina, the 8th largest nation in the world. His potent mix of economics and philosophy, combined with nationalist impulses, became a powerful electoral brew. And while many libertarians in his country stood in his way, libertarians in his country stood in his way, he succeeded in advancing libertarianism in despite of what the efforts of what the Argentines call cafe liberals or libertarados, who preach high ideals but who do nothing to advance those ideals. Murray Rothbard called them Luftmenschen in his time. Can we get an amen? So, I'm going to read it like an angry preacher. I say we must not allow the communists. We must not allow the socialists. Oh, amen. Say it again. I need a black congregation here. We must not allow the liberal Democrats, the fascists, or the hyper-collectivists to be the only voices at the negotiating tables during inevitable conflicts that will arise. The NAP's rigidity leaves nations vulnerable to existential threats and fails to account for the necessity of preemptive action in defense of liberty. Liberty, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. We must be proactive, not reactive to the threats we face now and those coming in the future. The United States must preserve a powerful military and ensure a lawful and constitutional national defense. Libertarian nationalism opposes the cultural hedonism that has taken root in modern libertarianism. Issues like gay marriage have been settled and equality under the law has been achieved. Yet some libertarians continue to pour energy into fringe cultural battles, chasing causes that no longer advance liberty. The freedom of consenting adults to do as they please has been protected and is under no threat from the Trump administration. Abortion is a state issue now. Marijuana is reasonably available for those who seek it. It's time to move on. What's worse, some libertarians have concluded that self-ownership extends to giving minors the ability to consent to sexual intercourse with adults, mutilate their genitals, or be free to access hard drugs. Libertarians being outed as pedos is an open secret in the movement, and I have the receipts. These must be harshly dealt with by the American criminal justice system. Libertarian nationalists reject the mission creep of NGOs and activists who, having achieved their goals, manufacture new grievances to justify their existence. Fundraisers whose main mission have been completed long ago still torture us with requests to pad their lucrative salaries and to bankroll their expensive dinners at wine bars in Lafayette Square. A nation's strength doesn't come from fringe causes. It comes from strong families, vibrant communities, and shared culture. Libertarian nationalism prioritizes these over endless, hedonistic activism for fringe causes. Libertarian nationalism focuses instead on the preservation of liberty and the protection of cultural cohesion, recognizing that a nation's strength lies in its shared identities and values. Those values must be clear, but broad enough to account for the differences of lifestyles, cultures, and traditions celebrated from the Aleutian Islands to Key West, Florida. It ought to be pro-family while not being explicitly pro or anti-religion. It rejects a nationalism that would exclude someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, who is an American in every way, from becoming president merely for the fact that he is a Hindu. The Constitution of the United States should be the test for presidential fitness, not particular faith or lack thereof. Thus, libertarian nationalism is distinct from other forms of American nationalism, such as that of Ann Coulter, who would never vote for Ramaswamy because of his ethnic and religious identity. Trump himself may be a good example. He claims Christianity, but refuses to engage in any form of theological debate or answer questions related to the inner workings of his own faith. He is something of a man for all seasons. Only Trump refuses to engage in theological debates which attempt to pin down his views, in contrast to Sir Thomas More. Trump asks no one about their religious affiliations, and he does not discuss his. The neoliberal consensus has dominated U.S. trade policy for decades, prioritizing global economic growth over national sovereignty and national security. As Ramaswamy explained at the National Conservatism Conference, this approach treated international trade as a tool for spreading democracy through, quote, democratic capitalism. But in practice, it made the U.S. economically dependent on adversaries like China for materials and pharmaceuticals that are critical to our national survival, while undermining American workers and industries. Libertarian nationalism rejects this paradigm. Trade policy should maximize GDP, but the good part of GDP. Yes, but it should also balance economic independence, national security, and the well-being of American workers. Decoupling from China in critical industries like pharmaceuticals and semiconductors is essential, as is fostering trade with more allies, like Argentina or India. We need to fix the problem at its root while working through diplomatic channels to divest from China and reroute trade. Look at Liz is asking, do we get recess today? Yes, you do. At 8:30 today, Colonel Rob Maness will be joining us live. I'm reading now from my manifesto, my Libertarian Nationalism, which appeared yesterday over at Human Events. I'm excited to share this with you today, and I didn't even have to murder anybody for it. The rest of the manifesto is 14 pages long. I reject cultural nihilism. We support civilization over barbarism. No apologies. We refuse to apologize for our civilization and how to restore a lean and accountable government. The time to act is now. It's time to get in the arena. Read my manifesto, available now over at humanevents.com. I've got 1 billion clips, so I got to go queue them up. We're going to have Rob Maness here in about 20 minutes. He's going to react to his thoughts on libertarian nationalism, and he's going to talk to us about how we de-wokeify the military. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
By the United States people, and they don't use your service anymore. You bankrupt.
That is not true.
You bankrupt this through your reputation only. Through your reputation, you are responsible for the fall of the Postal Service and the lack of accountability.
Congress is responsible for the fall of the Postal Service.
It's Congress.
I am trying to fix
on your
the Postal
watch
Service.
With all the AI.
Before my watch, the same stuff happened.
With all the AI, with all the computer systems, you're worse than if I took a horse and picked up the mail and delivered it 2 miles down the road. That's you. I hope you got that on camera. This is the response that the postmaster just gave Congress when he doesn't like what he hears. Literally covered his ears and gave himself the grade of A. And with that, sir, I rest.
The Postal Service. It'd be better off if I would get on a horse and deliver the mail by hand. They used to do that. I remember. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. What are you watching? No, this is my show. It's the Wake Up America show. Don't you know? I don't know. Did we lose any audience while we were hanging out in the commercial break? Entropy Nomad, I think you're the first Rumble rant we got today. Donations are down. Oh. You know why? Because Austin, because you forget to ask. I've been like going on my epic Liberty rants ask yourself a question. I mean, did you just enjoy the last hour and 20 minutes of my liberty rants? I think you did. Well, then can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, gosh.
Money wars.
Can you suck it?
Please.
Can you suck it?
What?
What?
It's the Wake Up America show. And if you enjoyed the Freedom Rants, last hour and 20, bless me with something. Drop a Rumble rant into the chat or go to the shop. Guys, get the coffee. It's so good. ForLibertyShop.com. The delicious Madisonian morning that I have here with me. The beans, so delicious. A symphony of flavors. There's a zesty twist. It kind of symbolizes the energetic debates that shaped a nation. Energize your day with Founding Flavors coffee. It's so good. You can only get Founding Flavors coffee at ForLibertyShop.com. We're going to speak to Rob Maness, Colonel Rob Maness, this morning at 8:30. I want to talk to him about Pete Hegseth. I want to talk to him about de-wokifying the military, and we'll have him react to the pushback that many have had on Pete Hegseth. It's funny, the people who initially hemmed and hawed that they might resist this nomination pick for the Secretary of Defense, now all getting on board. Take a listen.
I will say this. So I met with Pete twice, and I know Pete. I like Pete. If you look at his background, he's a decorated combat veteran. He has spent virtually his entire adult life as a champion and advocate for the military, for active duty military, for veterans. And I think he has a very clear-eyed focus on moving the Department of Defense back to its core mission of, number one, supporting the warfighter, and number two, being prepared and ready to defeat our enemies if necessary. And
that sounds good. Andy Opperman says, please publish a hard copy of your manifesto. I'd love to display it in my home and office. I tell you what I'm going to do, Andy, just for you. I am going to make a nice copy of my manifesto that's like printable, look good. I'll clean it up for you, add some frilly beauty, and then I'll even sign it for you, Andy. Thank you very much for your donation. Thank you. Please make those Rumble Rant donations, guys, or go to ForLibertyShop.com and support the show. The bonus content will return once things get a little bit unscrewed here over at the Wake Up America show. We're still down on a few of our services and devices, but the sound effects are coming back, baby.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
And we're even adding new ones.
Wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
It's always a good time on the Wake Up America show. If you don't like the Wake Up America show, if it's not your game, I totally get it. Some people are like, I don't like the sound effects. You know, you're Austin, I just can't nail you down. Like, my personality is really hard to pin down. It's kind of, I get it, right? So it's not, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I could be your box of Founding Flavors coffee, if you know what I'm saying here. I would never sell out. It's like people only do things because they think that they're getting paid. Somebody needs to say that to Luigi Mangione, the killer. And it's a choice, and it's the choice of a new generation. Oh, where's the logo? And it's the choice of a new generation. Right. Thank you, Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. Appreciate you, brother. Burnt Toast Space Girlfriend. It's so nice to see you again. Well, you're always so generous with us, Space Girlfriend. Will you be my Space Girlfriend?
Wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
She says, I struggled with applying and explaining anarcho-capitalism, which seemed like an unattainable dream. Libertarian nationalism makes far more practical sense. Thank you. You're weird, but so are we. It's true. It's true. We're weird. But from now on, it's going to be
America first, okay? America first.
That's right. We're going to speak to Colonel Rob Maness. He's going to talk to us about libertarian nationalism. He's very intrigued by the ideas as well, and I'm excited to hear his thoughts on that, as well as Pete Hegseth and the Trump cabinet.
That. I also believe in the Senate confirmation process. So, every one of the nominees, I think all of Trump's nominees for the cabinet, at least, are going to be confirmed.
Every single one.
I do say that. I also believe in the Senate confirmation process. So, every one of the
We'll see. I'll be curious to see how they react to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When it comes down to it. This is some interesting little news. We won't have time to talk about this today, but notice that beautiful watermark there on that clip. Good job, Brad.
Okay, the big announcement. What's happening?
Well, No Apologies Media, my new company, we're going to do a all-ladies talk show that won't be like The View.
Is it the opposite of The View?
It could be, but we're just going to do a show that it'll be the opposite because this will be entertaining.
Okay.
It'll be funny. You'll have funny women on it. They're going to tell jokes and have funny stories.
Yes.
And health and wellness.
Is the idea to go after The View at the same time slot? Are you going, it's a competitor?
And we're going to compete with them, yeah. I don't know if the same time slot. We're not going to announce who's doing the show yet, but that's what's happening now.
Yes.
And it's official. So now we're moving ahead.
Give us a timeline.
January, we're going to start shooting shows before the inauguration.
Are you talking to people? Are you talking to famous people, women that you like?
we have a lot of women we like, and it's household names, and you're going to love it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a funny show.
Okay, the big announcement.
They're going to compete with A View. Rob Schneider's going to do a show. They're going to compete with A View. Yes. Oh, dude, the ladies of The View are going to, their days are numbered, man. Their days are numbered. Yeah. Over there, the studio executives are panicking today because their ratings have been in the toilet. Rachel Maddow's lost half of her ratings. People are turning off the bullshit, man. They're turning into shows like the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. I can't wait. And I'm glad the ladies need something to help unbrainwash them, because they're in a difficult spot. And when you look at the ideologies, is like male, female, the ladies have gone way off the charts. Like young men, I was looking at the chart the other day, have gotten slightly more conservative. But the reason why the gap is so huge is because, like, when you look at women's ideology, specifically young women, their ideology is just off the charts. Socialism, progressivism, leftism. They've all been convinced that they're victims from their ivory towers in their $150,000 BMWs bought for them by daddy. Right, and that's instead of loving them, decided to give them a $150,000 car. You know what I'm saying? The daddy issues. It's endemic to society. They got a screw loose. Dad Bod Baboon says, I believe Austin reading his manifesto for the last 3 hours is better than 3 minutes of The View. Yes. Well, the thing about the show is, about The View, is it's for the ladies, of course. We do have some ladies here, but they're quite exceptional. Entropy Nomad, call the show Bitch Please. That's a great one. I love you guys, man. What a great chat. The Wake Up America show is really fun. And we got to stop we can't keep this to ourselves, guys. We need to start spreading the word by word of mouth. Because here's the thing. The big networks and the social media gods, I mean, even if it's like, and I appreciate everything Rumble does for me, right? But like, there's clearly like an insider's club on all these networks and things like that. And I have to build my network architecture and infrastructure on somebody else's servers and machines and all this kind of stuff. So there's only going to be so much success that kind of like the big tech and Silicon Valley, powerful people, YouTube or, X even and stuff like that, even if they're free speech, right-wing platforms, there's always going to be an insider's club who's going to like benefit before. It's like the Federal Reserve when they print dollars. Like the people who get the dollars first, the banks, they get the dollar at the peak of their value. And then by the time things start to trickle down to you get a tiny little pittance of it, right? So how can a show like this succeed if you're not an insider? What do? Well, you build up your network by word of mouth. It's like learn your lessons from the communist revolution. Don't believe in communism, but the tactics of your enemies can sometimes be important. Soviets won the war of World War II with muscle and blood. The communist revolution came about because from an army of peasants, and we are, well, a peasant army. Not all of us. I'm sure Paul Southcott lives quite well on that island. We didn't Google map it or anything, but I imagine that we do have a few whales out there, Irv's Mommy and a few others, and we're grateful for your support. You're the Ingalls to my Karl Marx. Andy Opperman is my Frederick Ingalls. He's my Ingalls to my Marx.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
But we will need to build our revolution, our libertarian nationalist movement, through muscle and blood. And you can make a donation like Bert Toast Space Girlfriend and Andy Opperman here in the Rumble Rant. And if you bless me with something,
Can you bless me
good
with
karma
something?
will come your way.
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise.
Santa will put more goodies in your stocking. I'm going to speak to Rob Manus. He's coming up next. Don't go away. It won't be a long little break. I'm just going to go to a standby screen. I'll get Rob and I'll be right back. Colonel Rob Manus on his take on my Libertarian Nationalism manifesto and how to de-wokify the military. When we get back on the Wake Up America show, it's the For Liberty Network. It's going to be a small break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Thanks for hanging out over there on standby, guys. It is kind of a nice little synthwave beat song that I produced for you guys so that you would enjoy it. But I'll try and up the game. Brad Beckman, if you're listening today, we're going to create some AI music, a little bit more kind of 80s retro synth and style. I'm an 80s baby, as you can tell by how gray my hair has become. That used to be, I'm a young person. No, old, geriatric millennial. I still got a little bit of pep in my step, ink in my inkwell, and I used it to write my Libertarian Nationalism manifesto. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes with my next guest. I can't underestimate the importance. If there is going to be a libertarian nationalism movement that is a vanguard of a new wave of liberty ideas, it's going to need my next guest. His name is Colonel Rob Manus. He's a patriot, he's a hero, and he's a great American, and he's joining us live right now on the screen. Welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you about the manifesto, obviously, Colonel, because I know you and I, we have been very much of like mind in certain ways that sets us apart from other American libertarians in a sense. And I want to have that big conversation. I know that my audience is primed and ready to hear it, but I want to hear, for those who are sort of new to this show, they're starting to just kind of figure out who we are. If they're watching us for the first time today, I want to serve them and their interests by giving them this top news and get your take on Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. Big question on our listeners' minds. Can he de-wokify the military? Should he? And how can he?
occurring and take that pressure off of the system. And then the third thing is the personnel piece of it. Look, we've had some generals and admirals, most of them that have bought into some really horrendous things like the unlawful vaccine mandate order that they not only enforced, knowing that it was an unlawful order, but enforced it so aggressively they denied religious rights to those that asked to exercise them, which is their right under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act that was passed not too long ago. And those personnel, starting at the very top, have to be removed from the system. And unfortunately, this system of indoctrination and Marxism has gone all the way down to our sessions, our entry-level programs. So we've got to take a look at how that is affecting our young cadets and our junior officers and our mid-level officers, and what we'll have to do to de-indoctrinate them and re-educate them. I hate to use that word, but to educate them on why is it important to follow the Constitution, what American values are, why they're worth fighting for, and why what they learned in these programs is the opposite and antithetical to those. And Pete can do all of those things, and he's got a plan that I'm aware of on the periphery, and he's working on that so he can implement it on day one.
He doesn't sort of fall in the traditional, typical Pentagon top brass insider, Soviet era sort of style, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, right? Kind of Secretary of Defense pick, right? He's a bit unorthodox of a pick.
Yeah, we've seen four-star generals, which have to have a waiver, by the way, because there's a prohibition against them serving as Secretary of Defense, and rightly so, as you can see by some of the disasters that have happened, even with highly respected four-star generals like Jim Mattis that has been Secretary of Defense. And we've seen corporate executives out of the military-industrial complex take the position. And we've seen folks like Chuck Hagel, who was a sergeant in the infantry in Vietnam and only served for a couple of years, be the Secretary of Defense. So Pete's record of military service, I think, just backs him up. But it's really his intellect and his ideas that support the president's approach to not just woke ideology being removed from the system, but get the system and the departments and the services focused on on fighting and winning America's wars when they're asked to do so by the civilian authorities. That's the way our system is supposed to work. And there are billions and billions of dollars wasted on this, things like this training, the organizational positions, the construct of the wokeism ideology, of climate change policies that have infested how we operate, how we look at future systems. There are no battery chargers on the battlefield, and you have these idiots that are in the system now talking about how we want to field electric battle tanks, main battle tanks. It's just an impossibility that's not going to ever work under the technology that we have today, or even will have in the next 100 to 150 years. Elon Musk even laughs at it. So we've got a lot of work to do, and we will do it.
A lot of dismal right-wing doom scrollers these days will look at the transgenderism in the military and the wokeification of the military, and they will suggest that it will primarily contribute to the United States losing wars in the future. Would you go that far, Rob?
Well, it's hurt our readiness over the last few years, and the latest readiness report out of an independent agency came out in the spring of this year, and all the services readiness rates were down. The Air Force's was the worst, and ironically, the new chief of staff, or the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs starting last year, is C.Q. Brown, and he was the chief of staff of the Air Force, and he presided over that reduction in readiness. So he also is a major buy-in to the Marxism and the wokeism, the trans ideology, all of that being implemented, especially at our service academies. So there's at least a correlation, if not some causation, between the two. The issue with let's take transgender individuals for a second there. The issue with them is not what they believe, it's what they're unable to do. Look, we don't let fat people come into the military. We don't let people come into the military and serve that can't have their eyes corrected to a certain extent so that they can see properly. You can't become a fighter pilot unless you have 20/20 vision without glasses initially. So we do things like that all the time that limit the individual citizen's ability to serve because of mental and physical issues that just aren't compatible with military service and being able to deploy around the world at a moment's notice to fight and win America's war. So transgender people have a mental disorder. It's a documented issue. They have to stay on medication almost permanently, and most of them are permanently. So they really are not fit to be worldwide deployable. And if they're occupying positions in the military and they're not worldwide deployable, then guess what happens? That young troop who's got a wife and 2 kids, or if it's a woman has a husband and 2 kids, has to do double deployment duty to make up for that position being filled by someone that can't deploy. So that's the pragmatic piece of that as to why President Trump initially in his first term eliminated the ability of transgenders to serve in the military. Now, nobody wants to be inhumane, but he needs to do that again, and we need to make sure we get back to warfighting standards to make sure the best people are being hired. That gets at the woke ideology issue, and we go back to a meritocracy, and that the best people and most capable people and the eligible people are allowed to serve so that we have enough folks filling those positions that have to deploy all the time.
Can we accomplish the goals of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and make serious cuts to defense spending without endangering our national security?
Oh, we absolutely can. As you know, Austin, I've been calling for it for a long time. Look, I'm not opposed to increasing military spending on the right things, but at the same time, there is so much waste. You know how much waste that we put into coming up with biofuels for jet fuel to use, and how it hurts the machines that you use it in, and it causes these extended costs way down the line in the process of flying and fighting a combat jet, for instance. We've got to get out of those things, and we can remove that stuff from the system and take a look at where we're at then and continue down this path to rebuilding our strength, getting our readiness back up, and focusing on what the department's supposed to do, which is lethality and winning America's wars. And most importantly, though, not fighting wars necessarily, but preventing wars from happening and deterring wars. That's the policy that I voted for, peace through strength and deterrence instead of this endless war policy. And I think that's why the majority of veterans not only support Donald Trump, but we aggressively got out there and campaigned for him. And I think that the reason why he got the majority popular vote was because of veterans in the United States.
Now, Colonel, this is a fascinating conversation, and I'd like to sidestep this into my discussion, my discussion on my manifesto that appeared yesterday at humanevents.com. We've been talking about it a bit this morning. I've always identified very much with your point of view on things, despite our very separate backgrounds and unique circumstances. I mean, you are a jet pilot, a full bird colonel. We've known each other for years. You were a major endorser and supporter of my campaigns, and I've been grateful for that for years. But I always felt as if there was an understanding that you had on foreign policy that was more nuanced, more complex. And in many ways, I think I changed my views to come closer to your point of view on things, as I've articulated in Libertarian Nationalism. When I compare and contrast the views of American libertarians on foreign policy to international movements such as Javier Milei's Libertad Avanza. Now, just because another country does it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, although in perhaps Javier Milei's case, I might make an exception. But when I talk in the manifesto about a sort of a nihilism, my argument, a social nihilism or a view, almost an anti-civilization, pro-barbarian view. I will frequently see American libertarians, many of whom are considered what you might be considered widely respected in our circles, who make arguments that are intellectually consistent with the views of someone like the communist Howard Zinn, of looking at the United States as the primary aggressor in the world, the great Satan, engendering ideas about perhaps the good guys lost in World War II, absurdities like maybe Osama bin Laden really has a good point here, which you could say that perhaps the Iraq War and Afghanistan War were boondoggles without necessarily morally adopting the views of Hamas terrorists, Al-Qaeda terrorists, Palestinian terrorists. But there seems to be a almost blatant disregard for what I would call the views of the civilized people in conflicts around the world involving specifically the United States and Israel. Was that something that stuck out to you about my manifesto? Was there anything else in particular that you wanted to address in my challenge to American libertarians on foreign policy, the NAP, and everything else?
I think it's a good challenge. When I first saw you writing about it on social media, a little bit over a week ago, I responded to that because, libertarian nationalism, really the way you write about it, Austin, we're much more alike than we are different. You and I are, as you mentioned. But you mentioned Walter Block in the article, if I remember correctly, and how he was banished because he defended Israel's right to defend itself, I believe. I've met Mr. Block, and he is as a matter of fact, I had him in a town hall meeting once at Tulane University. I didn't know it until he started talking to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm up against Professor Walter Block here.
That's not a good fight to pick if you're going to get into one.
and I'm like being viewed as this quasi-libertarian / populist /
he endorsed me. Walter Block, briefly, he endorsed me for president of the United States, and then he found out I was against the NAP, and he called me the next day to unendorse me.
But the thing is, though, when you mention what happened to him, and that juxtaposes on what you just said about him unendorsing you for being opposed to the non-aggression policy concept, that is the difference between this libertarianism that honestly I don't sign up to, that I've seen from the Libertarian Party here in the United States, and this libertarian nationalism that you write about. I call it Americanism because you dive deep into the concepts of what does it mean for Americans to be American, but also to be a country that is the United States of America. What did the founders really intend? And this tension between having a strong enough centralized government, but a decentralized form of government to match up to it has been around since before the Constitution was ever passed, and I see it in individuals between Jefferson and Hamilton in all of their writings primarily. But we have to get back to where our citizenry understands that absolutely, so that we don't allow things like what we've talked about infesting the Department of Defense, this critical theory, Marxism, indoctrination that's occurring as we speak. It literally is. I'm not being hyperbolic whatsoever.
Right, but what's fascinating is that you see this kind of this leftism, this cultural Marxism that's it's in our universities. You'll see it, and it's clear why libertarian leftists, who are people typically of the bent of the transgender, drag pride children day parades, or the selling heroin to 5-year-olds crowd, right, who boo me and things like that. I understand where they're coming from. I obviously don't agree with that. But then in this other sphere, of the Mises types on the right wing, they seem to have also adopted these woke concepts of when it comes to foreign policy, and it's a kind of an illness because they are so hyper-focused in a strange way on Israel, and to care more about Israel than they claim, the United States government cares more about Israel, but it's like, well, you pretty much talk about nothing else but Israel, right? So it seems like you're more focused on it as well. But I mean, it's this odd situation. It's not shared by people like Javier Milei. It's not shared by people like libertarian. He calls himself an anarcho-capitalist, But he's an anarchist in the streets, I guess, a libertarian, an anarchist in the sheets. I mean, how do you say that? But the point is that when the rubber hits the road at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge certain realities. He talks about them. I don't know if you saw his interview of Lex Friedman, where he talks about what they call the cafe libertarians or the libertarados, his own people standing in his way. Colonel, it wasn't just the establishment that I was fighting during my Libertarian and U.S. Senate campaigns. Yeah. I had to fight the whole Libertarian movement as well, because you're the enemy if you're not exactly 100% like they are. Like, I have no time for this hand-wringing and that we can't act because it's a non-aggression principle, NAP, and it's a cult. Yeah. It's a cult here in the United States, and I'm here to set everything they love on fire, because once the fire comes and burns down everything that they love, Colonel Rob, then we can start to heal, and the green underbrush, the new growth of a new movement can come.
Oh, yeah. And this is an opportunity, as you point out in your manifesto, Austin, an opportunity that we can't let pass by. The movement that has come up since I first ran for the U.S. Senate on America First policies in 2014, and then Trump comes in 2015 and runs on almost identical set of policies, wins the presidency. The entire movement, starting with the Tea Party, libertarians that are liberty-minded folks that understand what it is to be an America that has a place in the world now, and that has to be able to justly defend itself, and has to have allies that are allowed to justly defend themselves, which means you have to have the capability to do that. You have to have the capability to deter war in the global environment that we have now. And that type of Americanism is this opportunity to, as you said, get the green grass growing and fill that in, because what we are looking at from a policy perspective is what you're talking about almost identically, but folks, let's take the Afghanistan war. Look, I was in the Pentagon on 9/11. It's well known. So I was on a target. All right. I think my country is justified in defending itself by initiating the Afghanistan war. I saw the intelligence that led us to that fight, to where that enemy was. I saw the intelligence that country was harboring the enemy that attacked us on 9/11. I saw that as a just response and a just operation. But what I don't see as just is the continuation of that after mid-2005, when we had achieved what we needed to achieve to defend our country and didn't turn that country back over to its people to let them work out how they wanted to be, and then keep an eye on it. See, that's the difference between those on the right and left that we call them neocons in my circles, the folks that they're called warmongers. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about exactly what Donald Trump was just elected massively on when it comes to especially national defense, but it's also about Americanism, using trade to protect ourselves and to get countries in line so that they are being fair and we can actually have a free trade system. That's what I support. And that is a libertarian idea when you think about it in the hardcore, cold facts of the real world. You have to be able to apply it. And I think that's what you're talking about. And it fits with what America is and always has been and was intended to be. That's the irony here. And I felt very much at home when I read your article, very much at home, thinking someone has finally put this in the right words, in the right context, with the right guardrails on it, to where every American ought to be able to understand it and support it.
Thank you very much, Colonel Rob Maness. And it's obviously it's high praise coming from you, and I seek your approval, obviously. But I've felt for so long that this has been bubbling up inside of me, that there is no home, that no one is speaking the issues from the angles that I view it and I believe it. And yeah, there are people that have certain views here and there that coincide, but I've felt a desire to put my thoughts directly onto paper and to issue it in a way as a challenge because I want to challenge libertarians to think, and I'm not saying that this is the end all be all. It's not the Bible. It's not, the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's, I'm sure Martin Luther didn't feel the same way. When he put his 14 questions, he was asking questions, many of them, right? When he pinned his message to the church wall, it's to call for a reformation. It's time for a reformation. It's time for us to take stock of what we have, because as I said in the piece there is an opportunity in the MAGA movement for people like us, because they have shown, Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy and RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and all these people. Again, there's overlap on our ideas, but they aren't 100% us.Maybe Vivek and Elon are maybe the closest to us in this Doge coalition. But in the Doge coalition, it's proven that there are broadly speaking, that libertarian ideas are popular in the United States as long as they're not advanced by libertarians, right? So, if people, I love that I've got this in my back pocket now, because they're like, oh, so we don't have to listen to you. You're a loser. You lost your campaigns. But I won my first election this year as a GOP Trump delegate, and here's how I won. I ran as a concerned citizen and local landowner. And that's it. I didn't get into praxeology. I didn't talk about heroin to 5-year-olds, abolishing roads, none of that. I just said, hi, I dress like a normal human being. I showed up to the local meeting. I put my name on a slate. We actually overthrew the local Republican Party establishment. They wanted to be all the electors at the state convention. And me and Jay Ashcroft and a few others, we put our name down and we challenged them, and we won. Went to the state convention as a Donald Trump delegate. And, I'm sitting there talking to some of these Trump voters and stuff, and it's like they're my grandma, Colonel Rob. They're just normal people, many of them. Some of them are super politicos and insiders, but a lot of them are just concerned citizens, right? And that's what it is. It's common sense. Right? It's Thomas Paine. It's an appeal to common sense. Have I got a box of Thomas's Paine coffee here? No. But it is, and it's an appeal to common sense. That's what it is, right? And here's an important part too, Colonel Rob. No apologies for the United States and for what our ideals are. Not taking a page out of Barack Obama. I'm not trying to relive the Vietnam War. I'm looking towards the future, not the past. I'm not endlessly conspiracy theorizing about who shot JFK, right? I'm not desperately waiting for Oswald to have been proven to not be the killer, or maybe the second or third shooter. I'm not focused on the past like some manic, depressive, obsessive, OCD, autistic, Aspie libertarian, Colonel Rob. I'm looking towards the future. I'm in Ayn Rand's world. Who is John Galt? I want to be with the best and brightest to build a new civilization. And I'm not apologizing for the Pilgrims. I'm not apologizing for Thanksgiving. I'm not apologizing for the settlers. I'm not even a Christian, but I'm celebrating Christmas, and I'm saying Merry Christmas, goddammit, because that is an American holiday.
It is.
And that's
Merry
my
Christmas.
tradition. Merry Christmas to you, Colonel Rob. So no apologies for civilization. I'm not apologizing. I don't care about, what people feel about, our legacy or the history of slavery or all that stuff. I'm not looking back. I'm looking forward. I'm going to give you the floor, Colonel Rob. I'm sure you agree, but I'd love to hear sort of you put a button on it as we go out towards the end of the show.
Look, as I told an individual that said he was a Native American that came into my show yesterday and tried to say America was terrible, founded on slavery, did terrible things to the Indians, et cetera. Look, here's the bottom line. That does not change that the United States of America is the greatest gift to humankind's prosperity and freedom that man has ever devised. That is the America that we need to be in looking forward. And I like the way you put that, Austin, because we're looking forward. Look, I'm proud of my country, most things, but there are some things, been some terrible people that had power and policies, but we don't need to be focused on that. We need to be looking at the future, because we have just won these ideas that you laid down in this article this week. just were voted on overwhelmingly by the majority of the American people, regardless of what their religion is, regardless of whether they were trans people or gay people or American Indian or black people or whatever, or new immigrants like Vivek Ramaswamy's family, from Indian Americans. It doesn't matter. They all came together and voted for these ideas. Yeah, they're embodied in this guy named Trump and everything, and I'm very proud to support him and all that. But it's the ideas, the policies, and the ideas behind those policies that are important. And those are the ideas that you lay down in this article. And that's why it's important that everybody read it and don't get hung up on the terms like libertarian nationalism. Look, when I first ran, I was called a Tea Party candidate, and I turned to a reporter one time that said I was a Tea Party candidate. I said, the Tea Party is not a political party. I've been in the Republican Party and have been all my life. I don't really know what you mean. And then they said, well, are you a conservative? And I go, no, I'm an American. I believe in America and what's in the founding Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States and the 14th Amendment and all of the good things that we've been able to evolve into that represent all of those ideas. And I got attacked by Republicans,
I'm sure.
Democrats,
and
of course. Libertarians.
Of course, they demand allegiance. They demand. They demand your loyalty. I've noticed one thing. I've noticed about our people: they demand your loyalty, but they offer you none.
From now on,
exactly.
It's going
exactly
to
right.
be America first, okay?
From now on, it's going to be American first. Colonel Rob Maness, you can follow him over on X at Rob Maness. Rob, you got your own show. You want to share some a nice plug for our audience?
Yeah, the Rob Maness Show's Monday through Thursday live, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 hour. We're broadcast on X, we're broadcast on Getter, on Facebook, and it's carried by the Worldview Tube network that's operated out of Memphis. Brandon House is the owner-operator of that, and it's so we're live on Rumble on the Worldview Tube during the live broadcast all day long.
There we go. We appreciate you very much. Thank you, Colonel Rob Maness.
Thank you, Austin.
Have a wonderful day.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. We'd love to see it. Great conversation. Looks like a nice big audience. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Austin Petersen. This is the Wake Up America show. With President Trump's historic victory, we need to ask parents, like me, to listen up. Now that President Trump is headed back to the White House, he said he wants to teach our kids to love our country. I'm down.
It's going to be America first, okay? America first.
And the best place for them to start to learn is all about President Trump and his vision for America in his second term is right here, right now. Listen up. Mike Huckabee's team put together the Kids Guide to President Trump. And to celebrate President Trump's victory, they're giving it away for free with fun illustrations and easy-to-follow content. This important guide teaches kids all about President Trump's accomplishments during his first term, and it helps kids understand his goals for his second term. Mike Huckabee wants to send your family this free guide so you can teach your kids the truth. But you can't handle the truth. But please hurry because supplies are limited. To claim your free Kids Guide to President Trump right now, just visit kidstrumpguide.com. That's kidstrumpguide.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and it's time for the sad music. I love seeing such a huge audience here on the Wake Up America show. Hell yes. Brandon Meyer printed out my Libertarian Nationalism manifesto. He says that for some reason he needs to read them on paper. I don't know why. Yeah, when I get like big works, I want to like read them on paper. I'll turn my iPad into like a reader kind of app to read things like that. Read my manifesto. I didn't have to murder anyone to write it and to get you to read it, right? So if you don't want to give too much credit to killers to get people to read their manifestos, then download and read mine today, or I'll kill you. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, just calm down, all right? I'm just kidding. I won't kill you, except with kindness. You probably have no idea who I am. For hundreds of you, you're tuning into the Wake Up America show for the first time today. I see we got on the front page of Rumble, which means there's 650 people. Yes! That is a huge victory for me. Me, my beautiful, smoking hot, redhead libertarian wife, Stephanie Petersen, Brad Beckman, Angelo Pacheco, and Nelson65, and Andy Opperman, and an army of supporters are building this live show into a network. We've got 3 shows now. We call ourselves the For Liberty Network, and it's basically the new liberty movement. I'm building a new wing of the movement. Libertarian Nationalism is the manifesto. Maybe I'll turn it into a book, but only if you read it. I need to know, do people actually interested in this? So read that over at Human Events. But before you go, can you bless me with something? Yes, you will. I know.
Can you bless me with something?
Go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4 libertyshop.com. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Get your holiday, get your Christmas orders in, guys, because I swear to God that I do not want angry calls from people who are like, why didn't my Christmas present get there on time? Because you ordered it like a week before. I'm not Amazon, people. Don't you understand? It's me and my wife, and we're staking it all, our careers, our future of our child, on this podcasting business with our e-commerce solution on the side. It's forlibertyshop.com, For Liberty Network. The only way we'll succeed to make a greater America is with your support. So go shopping today, forlibertyshop.com. And we thank you. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow morning. Thirsty Thursday, gentlemen. Somebody wolf whistle. I can't do it. I'm out of breath and I'm out of steam. I'm out of water. See you guys here tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Click follow. Don't go until you click follow. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.